What's poppin', y'all? This thought came to my mind through, I'm going to take you guys on a little adventure of how I usually get certain ideas. But I saw a tweet that started off with Kanye West has a better discography than Eminem. And the tweet that replied to this was by Anthony Fantano, The Needle Drop. This is the tweet that showed up on my feed. And it said, if he stops making albums now, yeah. And I thought about it, how the last couple of albums that Ye has dropped, actually, if we're being particular about it, the only bad album that I would say Ye dropped recently was The Mess. That was Vultures 2. I think Vultures 2 was an okay album. Donda 2, I think Vultures 1 was an okay album. I actually bought the vinyl for that. You got to support. That was before I found out about the cousin thing, by the way. And that was before I also found out about him letting other dudes crack his wife. We're just putting that out there. But when we, like Donda 2, I think that was a mess too, but I think it's released now. I don't really count Donda 2 because it was a STEM player exclusive. But anyway, so I don't think I think Donda personally, Donda is a classic to me. And I don't care what you think. Like somebody's like, oh, Donda's not a classic. Listen, that's what I believe, okay? And what I believe is true. Like Jesus is King, Kids See Ghosts, right? Like before that, it's like you can't say those things are bad or whack albums. Now, Eminem does have some whack albums. But it just spurred me to think, like, yo, Eminem is actively releasing music. No, he's not releasing whenever he wants. But I ended up tweeting out the thought, and I said, if Eminem quit when we all wanted him to, we would have never gotten Godzilla. And Eminem, I would say he also, Lil Wayne falls under this. Like Lil Wayne's The Carter 6, a lot of people were disappointed with that. Me being Lil Wayne being my favorite rapper ever. I think Lil Wayne is the best rapper ever when we take the character of a rapper mixed with the skill. If you ask me like who's your favorite skilled rapper, I would say Lupe Fiasco. Like he's so multifaceted. I like Lupe Fiasco a lot. And he is objectively better than Kendrick Lamar. I don't care what your opinion is. Keep it to yourself. Not in today's comment section, okay? I need your opinion on something else, which we're going to get into later. But I thought about this because Eminem, right? Like when was the last time people thought like, yo, Eminem, we really want an album from him? I think like Recovery, it was when he really went pop, people were talking about Recovery and they were like, yo, this guy's got to stop. No, Revival was really peak Eminem GTFO. Like, get the hell out of here. We don't want to hear from you at all anymore. And it was garbage. Revival was, wow, it was bad. But he came back with Kamikaze, and then he came back with Music to Be Murdered By, and Music to Be Murdered By 2. I think Music to Be Murdered By was great, that series. But Godzilla ended up being a smash hit. I don't know if that's Juice WRLD's biggest song. I don't think so. Lucid Dreams and All Girls Are the Same are bigger. And part of that is because Juice WRLD's death and the time that he died and the way that he was ascending, it was this perfect storm. But the collaboration between him and Eminem, like these guys, they worked together great on that song, and Eminem caught a huge hit. And if he had retired, then we wouldn't have that song. But this isn't just about us. I think this is something that we need to highlight a little bit more, which is an admiration for artists who aren't really too concerned. Don't stop because they're not concerned with the perception of other people of their legacy. Because a lot of us, like for example, like the Needle Drop's tweet, he's like, oh yeah, his discography would be better if he stops dropping. Now, I'm not saying he's telling him to stop dropping, but a lot of people say stuff like, oh, this person needs to retire. He needs to preserve his discography. And this is just us thinking about us. Like, oh no, our artist, we need to be able to win arguments with other people because our artist does better. But if we talk about the artist in particular, like Lil Wayne loves to rap. And he's, 40 now? 40 plus. I think he's like 43. He loves to rap so much since he was a child, and he still loves to rap that he's still putting out albums. And he does not care what people think because this is for him, not for us. Same thing with Eminem. Like Eminem started rapping for him. He wanted to rap. He enjoyed rap. And he's still doing it because he enjoys it. And I think a lot of people got dragged out of their enjoyment for it. Like, for example, Joe Budden. He's having a very successful career right now as a podcaster, the number one podcaster. I was having this conversation the other day, and I was talking to a friend. I was like, yeah, Joe Budden's like top podcast in hip hop. And then my homie, who listens to Joe Budden actively, he's like, no, he's the number one. And then I thought, yeah, you know what? He is number one. I can't think of anyone bigger or anyone more impactful. So yeah, you're right. He is number one. So Joe Budden's the number one podcaster, but part of quitting for Joe Budden, and what took him away from the love of rap was the business side of it. Like him getting screwed over, certain beefs that he ran into, the deals, getting blackballed here. Also, one thing that he mentioned was the emotions that he felt when he put into songs. By the time it came time to perform them, he didn't even feel those emotions anymore because he recorded those songs so long ago. And that was a conversation that he had with Rod Wave, which I thought was very insightful. So that's somebody that quit rapping. And I don't think he doesn't like to rap anymore, but he's focused on podcasting now. And there are other rappers that I think quit or were too scared to drop certain projects because of their sensitivities and what people thought about their career. Like, I think that happened to Kid Cudi when he delayed. He was talking about Man on the Moon 3 was not going to release for a long time, and it ended up releasing eventually. But for Kid Cudi, he's somebody who people didn't tell to retire, but he got a lot of hate and just criticism, harsh criticism for the directions that he took in music. Like Speeding Bullet to Heaven, like I said, that thing was garbage. It was terrible, absolutely terrible project. But when he released Man on the Moon 3, that was a great album. I feel like most of us enjoyed that album. Passion, Pain, and Demon Slain, which was before Man on the Moon 3, was great too. But I think now he got driven away from music because of the business side of things when they just let his last album do nothing. But people like Eminem, it's almost like that they kept that childlike joy for their craft and for their art, and they refused to let fans take it away from them. They refused to let the business take it away from them. Granted, Wayne and Eminem had relatively smooth, not ascents, but they had relatively, once they got successful, it was quite smooth sailing from there. Lil Wayne went through a lot with Birdman, and I think that really harmed his love for rapping. But after he was able to get through that hiccup, he was fine. With Eminem, he was like one of the biggest superstars ever at a certain point, and he was facing cancellations from different countries and things like that. But career-wise, business-wise, I don't think he ever got screwed over, not anything public that we saw. So he was able to carry on just fine. But he's gotten a lot of criticism, and for them to be able to pretty much say, screw you guys, I'm putting this out, or I'm doing this because it's something I like, and I'm going to put it out regardless of what it does for my quote-unquote legacy. Because if you're the artist and you're really concerned with your legacy and your discography after you've already accomplished everything there is to accomplish in the genre, Kanye, Lil Wayne, Eminem, they've reached the peak of the peak. They are absolute legends. Their discography is global. People on every corner of the earth love their music, and they've touched every culture. If they stop to preserve their legacy, that's just getting hijacked by us. They're getting hijacked by random people to not put out something that they want to continue to do. And nobody says this about business people, right? Like, nobody says, like, dog, pack it up. You already sold a software company for $100 million. Why are you trying to do something new? Like, nah, that doesn't exist. But we do it with artists. You can't really do it with athletes because, like, athletes, either they get hurt or they get old. So there is an expiration date there. But with music, there isn't. With art, there isn't. And this doesn't happen in other types of art. This doesn't even happen with actors either. I think this is strictly a music thing, and I think it is strictly a hip-hop thing where they tell people to retire. You tell me, like, people that are very, very active and involved in other genres, let me know in your communities, because really hip-hop is the only genre that I'm plugged into, or I've been super plugged into. All the other ones, I was at best a casual listener, maybe keeping up with trends, but not really involved in those communities. But when these artists, from the outside looking in, to me, when those artists, even if they're old and they're dropping something, the fans are still excited to check it out, to buy it, and they're happy that they're still releasing for them. They're happy that they're still putting numbers on the board and trying to compete. Like Ty Dolla $ign, he's like, what, in his 40s? I think he's 43, 44. He just dropped a project. The reason why I just had Twitch open, and then in the recommended section, it's like, oh, Ty Dolla $ign. He's like, Tycoon, out now. I was like, oh, Ty Dolla $ign? He's a Twitch streamer now? I have seen clips of him on other people's streams, but I didn't know he streamed himself. And then I click on it, and he's just on some yacht, but he's promoting an album. Ty Dolla $ign's in his 40s. And I think this will be this is partially material for a script I'm writing for the main channel with age and music and a couple of different things, like opinions people have, like artists getting worse. I'm not going to use anything from here, but this is just fleshing it out. I've had this idea for several months, but I do think that this notion of artists having to retire or preserve their discography is something that we force on them, and we should give more respect to artists that buck that, because they're showing us that they do that for themselves. They don't do it for the money, because it's not going to make Eminem double his net worth or grow his net worth to drop another album. It's not. Same thing for Lil Wayne. It's not going to make them significantly richer to drop another project. For Snoop Dogg especially, like, nobody's even listening to new Snoop Dogg projects, with all due respect, Snoop. Like, I'm just saying, I know Snoop Dogg has dropped new projects. Am I checking them out? Frankly, no, I'm not checking out anything from Snoop Dogg post 2003, but he's still doing it. And the only reason Snoop Dogg is doing it, I guarantee every single album that Snoop Dogg has dropped, I don't guarantee, but I'm willing to bet every single album that Snoop Dogg has dropped in the past 8 years has lost him money. Just in engineers, production, like getting samples cleared, all of that. These albums made no money, but he does it because he loves making music. He loves putting out the music. And I think that's something we got to highlight a little bit more, because, hey, we give enough criticism, right? But let me know what y'all think about this in the comments. Like and subscribe and hit the notification bell if you enjoyed, and I'm going to see y'all in the next one.